Picture this. It's the middle of nowhere, off the coast of Alaska, and you're out on the ice doing whatever it is people do out there. Hunting, fishing, trying not to freeze to death. And then you look up, and there it is. A ship. A full-on, 230-foot steel cargo ship, just sitting out there on the frozen sea. No lights. No smoke coming out of the stack. No crew waving at you. Nothing. Just there. You'd probably think you were losing it, right? Except this actually happened. Not once. Not twice. Over and over again, for nearly 40 years, people up in the Arctic kept running into the exact same ship, abandoned, empty, and somehow still floating, like it had a mind of its own. They called her the Baychimo. And what happened to her is one of those stories that sounds made up, but every single part of it is backed up by real logs, real witnesses, and real history. So let's dig into how a massive cargo ship ended up wandering the Arctic alone for 4 decades, and why, to this day, nobody actually knows where she ended up. Here's the deal. Back in 1914, this ship rolls off the line in Sweden under the name Elfen. Nothing special yet, just another steel-hulled steamer built to haul cargo. But after World War I wraps up, she gets handed over to Britain as part of the war reparations deal, basically Germany paying off its debts with ships. The British sell her off, she gets renamed Baychimo, and she ends up in the hands of the Hudson's Bay Company. Yeah, the same company that basically ran the fur trade across Canada for centuries. From there, Baychimo becomes a workhorse. Every year, she'd sail up into the Canadian Arctic, drop off supplies at these tiny, isolated trading posts along the coast, and load up on furs from Inuit trappers before heading back south. This was not a joyride. We're talking brutal, freezing routes through some of the most unpredictable water on the planet. But for about a decade, she did the job, year after year, without much drama. Then comes October of 1931. Baychimo's on what's supposed to be a routine run, loaded up with a fortune in furs, heading toward Vancouver. She gets stuck in pack ice near a town called Barrow, now known as Utqiagvik, up on Alaska's northern coast. Not a huge deal at first. Ships get stuck in ice up there, you wait it out, you push through when you can. She actually breaks free once, keeps moving, and then gets stuck again on October 8th. This time, she's not budging. The crew makes the call. They abandon ship, figuring they'll head to shore, wait out the winter, and come back for her once the ice breaks up in the spring. Some of the crew actually stick around nearby, camping out in rough shelters just to keep an eye on their ship. That's how much this thing was worth to them. Then, on November 24th, a massive blizzard rolls through. It's so bad the crew can't even see straight, let alone keep watch. When the storm finally clears out, the ship is gone. Just gone. No wreckage, no sign of her. Everybody assumes the worst, that she got crushed by the ice or dragged under and sank to the bottom of the Arctic. Case closed, right? A ship gets swallowed by the ice. Sad story, everybody moves on. Except that's not even close to what actually happened. A few days after the storm, an Inupiat hunter comes across something that stops him in his tracks. About 50 miles from where the crew last saw her, sitting out on the ice like nothing had happened, the Baychimo. Fully intact. Not sunk. Not destroyed. Just floating there, empty, drifting with the current like a ghost. Word gets back to the captain, a guy named John Cornwell, and his crew treks out through the snow to check it out. Sure enough, there she is, banged up but still in one piece. At this point, everybody figures she's not going to last much longer. She looks damaged, and nobody thinks a busted-up ship is going to survive an Arctic winter on her own. So the crew climbs aboard, grabs whatever furs and cargo they can salvage, and gets airlifted out of there. They leave the ship behind for good this time, fully expecting the ice to finish the job. And this is where it gets weird. Because the ice never did finish the job. Over the next several years, sightings of the Baychimo start popping up all over the place. In March of 1932, a guy named Leslie Melvin spots her on his way to Nome. Then in 1933, a group of Inuit hunters get caught in a storm and actually take shelter inside the ship, sleeping on an abandoned Arctic ghost ship in the middle of a blizzard, which honestly sounds like the plot of a horror movie. People start trying to salvage her. Multiple times, crews board the Baychimo hoping to tow her back to civilization and cash in on the ship and whatever's still inside. And multiple times, the weather just does not cooperate. Storms roll in, ice shifts, conditions turn deadly, and the salvage teams have to bail, sometimes leaving in a hurry just to save their own lives. The last confirmed boarding happens in 1939, when a captain named Hugh Polson climbs aboard, but even he can't manage to bring her in. Think about that for a second. This is not some tiny rowboat drifting around. This is a massive steel cargo ship, no engine running, no crew, no navigation, and every single time humans try to get their hands on it and drag it back to shore, something stops them. Every time. Sightings keep trickling in through the 30s and 40s. Fishermen spot her. Other ships radio in reports of a mystery vessel drifting through the ice. She becomes something of a local legend up in Alaska, the ship that refuses to sink and refuses to be caught. So here's the million-dollar question. How does an unmanned ship survive for decades in one of the harshest environments on Earth without anybody steering it, without an engine running, without any maintenance at all? The honest answer historians and sailors have landed on isn't some spooky supernatural explanation. It comes down to that steel hull and sheer dumb luck with the ice. Baychimo was built solid, a reinforced steel-hulled steamer designed to handle rough seas. Arctic pack ice, weirdly enough, can actually cradle a ship instead of crushing it, especially if the vessel gets frozen in at the right angle. Instead of getting torn apart, she basically got locked into ice floes that carried her along like a passenger, drifting wherever the current and wind pushed her. When the ice melted enough in certain seasons, she'd pop back into open water, still floating, still empty, still very much a ship with nowhere to be and nobody to steer her. That explains how she survived. It does not explain how she kept dodging every single salvage attempt for years. That part is still just wild coincidence stacked on wild coincidence. Storms hitting at exactly the wrong moment, ice shifting right when crews got close, weather windows closing before anyone could get a tow line secured. Nature, it turns out, is really good at protecting its own mysteries. The sightings don't stop after the 30s, either. They keep coming through the 1940s and into the 1950s and 60s. And then, in 1969, nearly 4 decades after she was first abandoned, the Baychimo gets spotted one final time, locked in ice off the Alaskan coast. After that, nothing. No more sightings. No wreckage ever washing up. No confirmed final resting place. She just stopped showing up, like she finally decided she was done being found. In 2006, the state of Alaska actually launched an official search to try to track down the ship or her remains, using historical records and sighting reports to narrow down where she might have ended up. They came up empty. To this day, nobody has ever found the Baychimo's final wreck. She's still, technically, unaccounted for. So what do we actually take away from all this? The Baychimo isn't some campfire story with a supernatural twist tacked on at the end. Every part of this actually happened, documented by real crews, real captains, and real government records. And that's honestly what makes it hit different. This wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a curse. It was just a well-built ship, brutal weather, and 40 years of coincidences lining up in a way that feels almost impossible. There's something kind of humbling about it, too. Here's a massive, man-made machine, built with engines and steel and everything humans could throw at it, and once the humans stepped away, the Arctic basically just adopted it. Carried it around for decades like it belonged to the ice now, not to us. And maybe that's the real lesson buried in this story. We like to think we're in control out there, that a ship without a crew is just scrap waiting to happen. But the Baychimo proved that once nature takes over, it plays by its own rules, and sometimes, it just doesn't feel like letting go. Somewhere out there, frozen in ice or resting on the ocean floor, the Baychimo's story might still have an ending nobody's found yet. Until then, she remains exactly what she's been since 1931, the ship that walked away from everyone who tried to bring her home.